think we've got this recording now. Let me just double check here. And
I don't see it recording yet. There it is.
there we go. All right, there's our recording notice. So I'll make sure that we get this recorded and we won't have to go around for round two. So, all right. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I hope you're having a good day. I want to thank my buddy Davis Mendoza, who's the Vice President of Technology Operations at Icon Media Direct, for joining us today. So, Davis, thanks for jumping on the call with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Shawn. I'm super happy to be here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to our discussion.
Yeah, we've got a lot of cool things we're going to talk about today. We won't go on hopefully too long, but a couple of things that we want to focus on is just we'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges you faced whenever you took over at kind of Icon Media Direct. We'll talk about the IT discovery and that risk assessment that we did with you at the very beginning. And then kind of how you use that kind of IT discovery for, some strategic planning or projects, just kind of how you use that information. And then we went through a reassessment this past December, I believe, was when we did that. And so we'll just go, kind of talk a little bit about, why the reassessment and, the things that we learned the first time and things we learned kind of the second time. So,
That's
all
good.
right. So with that being said, I'm going to slide it over here. And why don't Davis just kind of introduce yourself for us a little bit, maybe give us a brief kind of background and tell us a little bit about Icon Media Direct.
All right. Well, I've been in IT for about just a little under 30 years now. It's kind of weird to say, but
Well, that can't be true because you only look like you're about 32. So,
well, yeah, I started off as a toddler.
yeah,
But I
exactly.
did start off my career at Walt Disney Imagineering, um, and started off at the help desk, and kind of moved my way up to desktop support. I supported a lot of the Disney executives for a time there, and then ended up managing desktop support, systems and servers, and network engineering and architecture. And some of the big things that we worked on were Tokyo Disney Sea, California Adventure, and all the rehabs and all the different parks, where it's in Paris, Orlando. And when I left, it was Hong Kong Disneyland was the last project I did there.
Oh, wow.
That was like
I
for
don't
the
know if
first.
I knew that you went and were
That
at
was like
Hong
for the
Kong
first
Disney.
10
That's
years of my
really
life.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. And then the past 20 years has been really focused more on IT management and really helping lead and establish a vision for different companies I've been with. I worked with a manufacturing company for about 12 years. And then when we met, I was working for that finance company. And before going to the sexy world of advertising, where I am now. So Icon Media Direct is a direct response media buying agency. Basically, we buy the ads for all of those 1-800 or, www.whatever-it-is.com type of ads that you see on various shows. And
Yeah,
we're
so
heavily driven.
all the ads that I go, man, I didn't even know that exists, but I need that.
Yep, all those infomercials, whether it's some diet or you know toothpaste or insurance, those are direct response ads, and that's
Yeah.
really what we specialize in. And really, we try to deliver the highest ROI for all of our clients, and that's driven a lot with our statistical analysis and data science that we've relied on heavily. And so that's where a lot of what I do comes in. I oversee the team of business information management specialists, data science, a dotted line to me, and software and data engineering is also a group that I oversee. And so, we're heavily focused on delivering best value for our clients, and that means being able to do a lot of really cool stuff with data.
Right. Definitely, technology centered, a lot of technology in the firm, a lot of data. A lot of
Yes.
analytics, a lot of cool stuff going on there.
A lot of
Absolutely.
compliance. So
A lot of compliance. Yeah.
yeah.
When we were um, first started talking about getting together and doing this, I started thinking, I was like, oh man, how long have I known Davis now? So I went back and looked. 2017. I can't believe it's it doesn't feel like that long ago, but man, and you referenced it earlier. This is kind of the second company that we've worked together with on.
Yes.
The first one was a financial kind of company, and now we're into the, as you call it, the sexy advertising business. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So let me sorry, we'll move us over. And so tell us a little bit about maybe the kind of current situation or some of the challenges you faced whenever you came into kind of Icon Media Direct. And what kind of opportunities did you see?
So, 2.5 years ago when I first, it'll be 3 years actually. May 2019 is when I started Icon. And
Wow.
my first week there, the network, our internet line dropped 3 times. And at each instance, 2 to 4 hours in every instance.
Oh, wow.
That was kind of normal for them. They were restarting one of their critical services every other day, and backups were inconsistent, unreliable. They had a colo in Las Vegas that was a mirror image, or as far as systems were concerned, of the data center we had in Sherman Oaks, but it was never tested. So we had this really expensive facility, but no one ever knew really if we could rely on it. And so that created a lot of course, anxiety and sleepless nights for our CEO, knowing that, her company was basically relying on a service that she hadn't tested and didn't know if it
Wow.
was going to work. So that
Yeah,
was really
definitely
one
a
of the
risk
biggest,
factor there.
yeah, and that was one of the big challenges for me coming in. And there were some other things that we really, it was a new staff. There wasn't a lot of documentation as far as the network architecture, the system design. So walking into that, there was, I didn't have any information. There was, I was going through servers, going through directories, trying to find clues of how this thing is built, and go to different server closets to see which lines, how one switch was connected to the other. And I'm like, you know what, I can't do this. Let me call Shawn and see what he can do for me. And I think I
Yeah.
called you the first 2 weeks I was on the job. So
Right. So I'm shocked. You're telling me that IT people didn't, create extensive technical documentation?
I know, shocking, right?
I mean, we never see that, right?
No. We're so diligent about writing down everything that we do. So no.
Oh yeah. Well, I hate to tell you, and you know this, but that situation is not uncommon. We see that a lot, which kind of leads us to kind of our next, kind of topic or slide that we're going to kind of cover. What I pulled up here is just what our internal kind of proven process is, and so this is the process that we follow with, when we start engaging with new customers. And for us, because your situation is not that unique, we like to start with that kind of IT discovery and risk assessment kind of process. And so that's an opportunity for our team, to kind of come in and do just a real deep dive into all the IT systems. We look at all the different kind of configurations, and we help, kind of piece together, for someone like you that was coming in new to an organization, or an organization that just needs a fresh set of eyes, because sometimes we can't see the forest from the trees.
Mhm.
I know internally, every year we go through a SOC 2 audit, and have an auditor come in and dig deep into all of our systems and check our policies against our settings and things. Because, sometimes you just need that extra set of eyes to kind of check it out and make sure and kind of validate a little bit about what you're doing. So for us, we kind of start with that IT discovery and risk assessment, and then we move on to, onboarding and any kind of remediation project and support, special projects, and kind of ongoing management. But today we're going to focus on just that kind of step one in that process, which is, doing that deep dive, understanding the technology pieces that are there, looking at any kind of documentation or creating any documentation. And then we like to kind of compare it to, from a risk standpoint, and kind of bump it up against a best practice framework. And for most of our clients, kind of depending on the industry, we'll use either the NIST cybersecurity framework, or if you're in a defense industrial base and need CMMC information, we'll use the 800-171 framework. And so there's different frameworks that we'll use. For your case, we use the NIST cybersecurity framework and help kind of understand from a risk standpoint, kind of what risk and where we were kind of aligned with those security controls. So how was that kind of experience for you? And, kind of what kind of value did you see doing that discovery project with us?
Well, for me, it was so easy and straightforward. I'd worked with Brandon before, so Brandon really walked me through that entire process, and you were part of that process also. And it was just very easy to follow, straightforward. We went through the NIST questionnaire of best practices, and that really, not only did it expose items that we really weren't even thinking about, but important for best practice. So it really got my mind going on what else we would need during the assessment. But yeah, the whole process was really easy for me. I know from what I can remember 3 years ago, because once I answered the question, Brandon took it over. And then, the one thing I do remember, the constant communication between SnapTech and me and my team was great. I mean, you spoke to several of my other team leaders in different groups to get their perspective on what was happening, and I think that helped a lot, because I've only been there a month or two when you guys really started digging into this. So it was important to also get that background, which the other team members were able to provide. And so that gave a lot more context to the assessment, which I think was really helpful in framing up everything for us in the very beginning.
Excellent. So during that, was there anything that was kind of a surprise to you, or any specifics, that we found that were a shock, or it's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. I know I'm asking you to think back, 3 years ago, but is there anything that kind of stands out that we kind of found that you?
The first thing I remember seeing, and then when Brandon brought it up to me, was that there was how under configured, I guess, our firewall was. There were a lot of settings and features. It was a next-gen firewall, so there was a lot of features that weren't enabled or configured on that system. We didn't have high availability enabled. So we had this active and passive firewall, which pretty much didn't mean much because there was no connection between the two. I mean, if one failed, you were in the back plugging one, taking ports out or plugs off one and plugging into the other. That was the redundancy of that system. So that was a little shocking, because when you look at it, it looks like all the cables are there, but knowing that that wasn't configured properly was a surprise. And that was definitely something we need to address immediately. We also knew that we had 2 data lines coming in, but those weren't configured to pull and have automatic failover. So that was another thing that was, it knew it wasn't surprised, but it was just shocking that no one thought that we could just pull those things together. And so, it was 2019. We weren't in the early days of the internet back in, 1994 when these things didn't exist. So not having that set up was, surprising. But that assessment also helped confirm a lot of things. And then more than anything, it helped give us or provide me with a roadmap, a to-do list, and of what we needed to do to get a secure security foundation in place that we can start building on. And
Yeah. So yeah, I think that kind of maybe leads us to maybe this next little slide, which was, I know we talked about some of the risk, but how did that kind of influence, or did it influence? Did it help you in some of your strategic planning? Did it help you kind of line out some of the projects that you wanted to do?
oh yeah,
What was that kind of like?
it helped prioritize what we needed to do. Because
Mm,
when we receive the assessment, we have the most critical, medium criticality, and low. So, we were looking at, okay, what would be the easiest? So we looked at some of the low-hanging fruit that we can just take care of right away.
right.
But there were others, risks that really needed to be addressed. Backups were big, and just securing some of our other systems. There was a lot of duplication that we really need to get rid of. So that really gave me, that not requirements, but recommendations. Really gave me a nice to-do list, and provided me with support with my CEO to say, like, this is what we need to do, and this is what it's going to cost for us to do it. And
Yeah.
and she loved that. She loved knowing that, okay, this is going to address this issue. It's going to help our security infrastructure, and
Mhm.
help her sleep better at night, and myself too. So
Well, and so it's probably all, a lot of those things were all of the same things that, you knew and were, have brought to, the CEO, and were, hey, these are things that we need to get done. It's just good having that second voice to, confirm the things and help you validate it,
absolutely,
I guess,
yeah,
to the executive team.
yeah.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned backups a minute ago, and so I think we've got one last little slide that, um, so backups were a big risk point for you there.
Yeah.
Definitely something that was a high expense. What can you share just a little bit of information on kind of what that kind of current system was, and what the you felt the risks were, and then tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
So the backups were just backed up. It was managed by another service provider at that time, and they were just backing up to um, another NAS system. So we're just backing stuff over to that device, and then at night they would do a full backup of that whole system over to the colo in Las Vegas. Um,
Got it.
they also did some shadow copies, but there was just you couldn't really count on it. There was a lot of failures. We would put tickets in and they would address it a couple of days later. But that time when a backup is made, and you never know when you're going to need it. And so to have any type of lapse in that backup was just um, created just a lot of anxiety, and just uneasiness for
Yeah.
me and the rest of my team. So that's something we really wanted to address. And I had experienced that data backup system
Mm.
back in the other company where we met, and I love that. Love that system. Not only did it provide me with the type of backup I needed on a daily basis, you could set it up for every 4 hours or even more if you needed to. But the most important thing to me was the report the next day that everything was backed up and everything was spun up, so that in the event something happened that day, I knew that my last point, or that I could go back and spin up that virtual system in less than an hour, and faster in most cases. And
Yeah.
in the last 2.5 years, since you've been with us with an Icon, I think I've used that system at least 2 to 3 times to come back and use it for a few days while we were trying to fix the actual device. And it's a really it's been a great system for us. And, it's tested virtually every single day. So I know if something happened, I know that I can spin up our entire network up on the cloud. And, if we all wanted to still work in a disaster, we could.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, if I remember the previous system, a lot of moving parts, and we're talking, you don't have a small amount of data that you guys are managing either. So we're not talking about a gig or two here. We're talking substantial amounts of data that we're backing up. But there were lots of moving parts and a lot of failure points, I think, in the previous system. Definitely what we put in definitely simplified things a lot, right? And definitely has the management oversight and some of the controls built into it and some of the reporting that just provides that, peace of mind.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing for me, was just knowing I had that backup, and I knew it was going to work. And that was just peace of mind. I can focus on other things. Nothing like having that in the back of your head, like, oh gosh, wonder what today's going to bring.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't have that worry.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. All right. So one last thing for you. And so, we've been working together for about 3 years now. Done lots of little projects and did our original kind of assessment back in the day, kind of followed our process. But this past, I think November area, you gave me a call up again and said, hey, let's go do another assessment. So tell us a little bit about why you wanted to do it. Hey, I'm a big fan of doing, assessments, kind of an annual thing, just as it's a good idea to understand where we're at, and then we work to get some progress made, and then let's reassess where we're at, and then, keep moving. So tell us a little bit about the second time we kind of did this project with you, and what kind of value did you see from that? And were there things that we kind of found this time that were a surprise or unique, or just how'd that go?
So, like the slide says, it's knowledge. I want to know how far we had improved from where we were. That was the important thing to me. I want to recalibrate. But more than that, also, our whole user computing environment had changed. In the 2.5 years, all of a sudden, back in 2019, when I came in, we had 90 users, employees coming into the office and working from from our offices.
Well, there was a little event that happened in the middle of that changed things, right?
Yeah, and it's still kind of happening now. But we went from on-premise to now 90 users remote, and not just in Southern California. We're all over the United States now. We've got employees in Florida, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Texas, Northern California, Washington. We have expanded out. We are no longer restricted by the walls of our offices, and that presented new challenges for us. Instead of just having one firewall, now I have 90 points of entry all over the United States that I have to worry about. And so this remote environment also created new challenges for me. I wanted to recalibrate our information security, and then also gain some insight into where the new vulnerabilities existed. And so that was really important, and that's what that assessment was for. I also signed a lot of security attestations, at least once a week, or data protection agreements with our clients. And they're very specific with the level of security we're expected to deliver for the data that we store for them. And so it's important for me to be able to meet those requirements. The onus is on us to make sure that our clients' data is protected. And I wanted to be able to show them how seriously we take data protection, and also provide them with proof, which was the other piece. That assessment that you provided for us is something that I provide to our clients upon request. I want them to see exactly where we stand and that I'm not just answering these questions with, this is what they want to hear, so this is what I'm going to say, right? I want to actually be able to give them a third-party assessment and say, look, what I say is actually validated by someone else. And that's also very important because it provides them confidence, knowing that the data that they're giving us to store is being secure, is being stored securely, and that we are following policies that we do have in place to ensure that the data is protected.
Well, that is awesome. Fantastic information. Well, Davis, I think that's about all the time that I've got for us today. You have been awesome. Thank you so much
My
for
pleasure, Shawn.
coming on and spending a few minutes with us. We got a couple of other webinars coming up here in May. We're going to do one on an MDR solution. And so if you're interested in learning more about MDR, we'll be doing one of those in May. So keep an eye out for in your inbox or on our website for that. And then June, we're gonna do a webinar about application control and some of the neat features and things around basically going to a zero trust environment and just denying everything and only allowing the things that you want to run in your environment.
I love that.
So absolutely. So those are a couple ones we've got coming up. We've also got a ton of information on our website in that resource section. So Davis, thank you again so much. Good seeing you. We'll get together soon, play a little golf, and share some puppy stories. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.